David Reed crawled through the narrow maintenance shaft with his toolbox scraping against the metal walls. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he worked to fix the faulty cooling system in Cargo Bay 7. The Deep Space Research Station had been his home for 2 years now, and he knew every corridor and hidden passage by heart. He emerged from the shaft and wiped his hands on his work suit. The cargo bay stretched before him, filled with crates and supplies waiting to be sorted. Everything seemed normal until he heard a strange hissing sound from the far corner. David froze. That sound did not belong here. He turned slowly and saw the small emergency shuttle attached to the docking port. Nobody had mentioned any arrivals today. His hand moved toward his communication device, but before he could press the button, something moved in the shadows between the storage containers. 2 glowing yellow eyes stared at him from the darkness. David took a step back. His heart pounded in his chest. He had seen pictures of many alien species during his training, but nothing prepared him for seeing one up close. The creature moved forward slightly and he could see its outline now. It was small, perhaps the size of a large dog covered in dark scales that reflected the dim lights of the cargo bay. Sharp claws scraped against the floor with each careful step. The creature made a low growling sound that vibrated through the air. David recognized the species immediately from the threat briefings. Vraxi. They were known throughout the galaxy as skilled hunters and fierce warriors. Even their young were dangerous. This was definitely a young one. David could tell from its size and the way it moved with uncertainty. But young or not, those claws looked razor sharp. He spoke softly, trying to keep his voice calm. "Hey there. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The creature responded with a sharp hiss and pressed itself against the wall. David noticed dark stains on its side. Blood. The young Vraxi was injured. His training kicked in. Before joining the space service, David had worked with troubled children back on Earth. He understood fear when he saw it, regardless of the species. This creature was not attacking because it wanted to. It was scared and cornered. David reached for his universal translator clipped to his belt. He pressed the activation button and heard nothing but static. The device was broken, probably damaged during his crawl through the maintenance shaft. Perfect timing. The young Vraxi took another step forward, its body low to the ground in a hunting posture. David could see its muscles tensing, preparing to spring. He had maybe 20 seconds before this turned violent. He slowly raised his hands, palms open, and took a small step backward. The creature stopped moving. Good. It was watching him, analyzing his behavior. David continued moving slowly, never breaking eye contact. He had learned long ago that running triggered chase instincts in predators. His mind raced. Station security would arrive in about 20 minutes if he called them now, but any sudden movement might provoke an attack. The young Vraxi was already frightened and hurt. Adding more armed humans to this situation would only make things worse. David needed to keep the creature calm until help arrived. He continued his slow retreat until his back touched a storage locker. The Vraxi followed at a distance, never taking its eyes off him. David noticed something interesting. The creature's eyes tracked his hand movements more than anything else. It was focused on motion, on patterns. An idea formed in his mind. He carefully lowered one hand and opened the storage locker behind him. Inside was his lunch container and some old packaging materials he had been too lazy to throw away. His fingers found what he was looking for, a piece of cardboard from a supply box. David pulled out the flattened cardboard slowly. The Vraxi watched every movement. He held the cardboard in front of him and began folding one corner. The material crinkled softly in the quiet bay. The creature tilted its head. David folded another corner, then another. His hands moved in smooth, deliberate motions. He had learned origami as a hobby years ago, though he was never very good at it. Right now, he was not trying to create art. He just needed to capture the creature's attention. The young Vraxi took a step closer. Its aggressive posture had changed slightly. The muscles were still tense, but there was something else now. Curiosity. David continued folding the cardboard. He created a simple box shape, opening and closing the flaps. The Vraxi moved closer still, its glowing eyes fixed on the cardboard. The growling had stopped. He set the cardboard box on the floor between them and slowly backed away. The creature approached cautiously, sniffing the air. It touched the box with one claw and the cardboard moved slightly. The Vraxi jumped back, startled. David smiled despite his nervousness. He reached into the storage locker again and pulled out another piece of cardboard. This time he folded it into a different shape, making sure his movements were visible and slow. The creature watched every fold, every crease. When David finished, he had created a simple tunnel shape. He placed it next to the first box and used a small bolt from his toolbox to demonstrate. He rolled the bolt through the tunnel and it came out the other side. The young Vraxi made a sound that David had never heard before. It was not a growl or a hiss. It sounded almost like a chirp of interest. The creature moved closer to the cardboard tunnel and touched it with its snout. David let out a slow breath. This might actually work. 20 minutes passed like hours. David sat cross-legged on the cargo bay floor, surrounded by pieces of cardboard. The young Vraxi named Rin sat 5 meters away, watching his every move with those bright yellow eyes. David had learned the creature's name through simple gestures and sounds. When the Vraxi made certain clicks, David repeated them until the creature seemed satisfied. It was not much, but it was communication. He folded another piece of cardboard into a triangle shape and set it on the floor. Rin's head tilted to the side, studying the new creation. The creature's injury seemed less severe than David had initially thought. The bleeding had stopped, and Rin moved without much difficulty. David picked up a larger piece of cardboard from the pile beside him. He began creating something more complex this time. His hands worked the material, folding and creasing until he had constructed a simple maze with multiple paths. He used tape from his toolbox to hold the walls together. Rin stood up and took 3 careful steps forward. David continued working, pretending not to notice. He had learned this trick with nervous children. Sometimes the best way to build trust was to give them space while remaining present. The maze took shape under his hands. It was not fancy, just cardboard walls forming a path with a few turns and dead ends. David placed a small metal washer at one entrance and demonstrated by tilting the maze, letting the washer roll through the path until it emerged from the exit. Rin made that chirping sound again and moved closer. The creature was now only 2 meters away. David could see the details of its scales, the way they overlapped like armor. He could see the intelligence in those yellow eyes. David slowly slid the maze across the floor toward Rin, then deliberately turned his attention to his toolbox. He made a show of examining his tools, giving the creature privacy to investigate the cardboard creation. From the corner of his eye, he watched Rin approach the maze. The Vraxi sniffed it carefully, then touched one wall with a claw. The cardboard bent slightly under the pressure. Rin pulled back, surprised by how easily the material moved. The creature circled the maze, examining it from all angles. Then it did something David did not expect. Rin picked up the metal washer in its mouth and dropped it at the maze entrance. The washer rolled partway through before getting stuck at a corner. Rin made a frustrated clicking sound. It reached in with one claw and pushed the washer until it moved again. The washer completed the maze and rolled out the other side. David felt a smile spread across his face. The creature understood cause and effect. It understood puzzles. He pulled out more cardboard pieces from the storage locker. There was plenty of discarded packaging material here, stuff that should have been recycled weeks ago. David's laziness was finally paying off. He began constructing a larger structure. This time he created a box with multiple chambers connected by tunnels. He cut openings in the cardboard walls and reinforced them with tape. His hands moved faster now, confidence building with each fold and cut. Rin watched the construction process with intense focus. The creature moved even closer, now sitting just 1 meter away. David could hear its breathing, a soft huffing sound that reminded him of a cat's purr. When David finished the multi-chamber structure, he placed it between himself and Rin. Then he did something bold. He took a piece of string from his toolbox and dragged it through one of the tunnels, letting it dangle from an opening on the other side. Rin's eyes locked onto the moving string. The predator instinct was clear, but instead of attacking, the creature approached the cardboard structure and peered into the tunnel. It reached in with one claw, trying to hook the string. David gently pulled the string from his end, making it move. Rin's whole body tensed with excitement. The creature's tail, which David had not noticed before, began swishing back and forth. They played this game for several minutes. David would move the string, and Rin would try to catch it through the cardboard tunnels. Sometimes the Vraxi succeeded, sometimes it did not. But with each attempt, the creature seemed to relax more. David noticed something else. Rin was learning. The Vraxi began predicting which tunnel the string would appear from next. It started positioning itself strategically, using problem-solving skills that impressed David. He decided to increase the complexity. David pulled out even more cardboard and began adding to the structure. He created towers by stacking boxes and cut windows in the sides. He made bridges using flat pieces of cardboard supported by rolled tubes. Rin watched for a moment, then did something that made David's breath catch. The creature picked up a piece of cardboard in its mouth and brought it to the structure. Rin looked at David, then at the cardboard, then back at David. The message was clear. Rin wanted to help build. David nodded slowly and pointed to a gap in the structure where another wall would fit. Rin carefully placed the cardboard piece against the gap. It was not perfect, but it was close enough. David secured it with tape, and they had created something together. From that moment, everything changed. They were no longer human and alien, predator and prey. They were two beings working on a shared project. David handed Rin another piece of cardboard. The creature took it carefully, mindful of its sharp claws. Together they added more sections to the growing cardboard fortress. Rin seemed to understand the basic principle now. The structures needed support, needed balance. The creature made mistakes, of course. Sometimes a piece would collapse and Rin would make frustrated clicking sounds. But it would try again, adjusting its approach. David felt something warm in his chest. This was why he had loved working with children back on Earth. That moment when understanding clicked, when fear transformed into confidence, when learning became play. He had not expected to feel the same way with an alien predator species. The structure between them had grown into something impressive. It was now as tall as David's waist, a cardboard fortress with multiple levels, tunnels and towers. It was messy and imperfect, held together with too much tape and hope. It was beautiful. Rin sat back and made a series of chirps that almost sounded like laughter. The creature looked at David, and for the first time, there was no fear in those yellow eyes. Only joy. The security team arrived with weapons drawn and faces tense. David heard their boots hitting the cargo bay floor before he saw them. He raised one hand slowly, signaling them to stop. His other hand continued placing a cardboard piece onto the tower structure. Rin looked up at the armed humans, and David felt the creature tense beside him. He spoke softly without turning around. "Hold your position. Do not come closer." Chief Security Officer Ann Rodriguez stopped her team 10 meters away. Her eyes widened as she took in the scene. A human and a Vraxi juvenile sitting together, surrounded by an elaborate cardboard construction that covered 3 square meters of floor space. "David, are you okay?" Ann asked quietly. "I am fine. We are building." David secured the cardboard piece with tape and handed another piece to Rin. The creature took it carefully and added it to the structure. Ann exchanged glances with her team. Nobody lowered their weapons. "We received your emergency signal 40 minutes ago. We thought you were in danger." "I was. Then we found a better solution." David finally turned to face the security team. "Rin is injured and scared. We are communicating through construction." One of the security officers, a young man named Peter, whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "That thing is a Vraxi. They are apex predators." Rin's ears flicked toward the sound and the creature pressed closer to the cardboard fortress. David noticed the shift in body language immediately. The relaxed posture had changed back to defensive. "Lower your weapons," David said firmly. "You are frightening, Rin." Ann hesitated. Protocol said they should secure the alien threat and evacuate David to safety. But Protocol had not anticipated this situation. She slowly lowered her weapon and signaled her team to do the same. The tension in the cargo bay eased slightly. Rin's ears returned to their normal position. "Medical is standing by," Ann said. "That creature needs treatment, I know. But Rin will not let anyone close enough while everyone is acting afraid." David picked up another cardboard piece and began folding it. "Trust me on this." Ann watched as David created a simple box and placed it near Rin. The Vraxi examined the box, then added it to the growing structure. The chief security officer had seen many strange things during her years in space, but this ranked near the top. She tapped her communication device. "Medical team, this is Rodriguez. Bring your supplies to Cargo Bay 7, but leave the heavy equipment. We need a softer approach." Dr. Lisa Warner arrived 10 minutes later with a small medical kit. She was a xenobiologist who had studied dozens of alien species, but she had never treated a Vraxi before. They were notoriously difficult to approach. She stopped beside Anne and stared at the cardboard fortress. "Is that what I think it is?" "Human-alien cooperation through arts and crafts," Anne replied. "I did not believe it until I saw it." Lisa set down her medical kit and studied the situation. The Vraxi juvenile was clearly comfortable with David but wary of everyone else. She needed to examine that injury on its side, but getting close enough seemed impossible. Then she noticed something. David was incorporating new elements into the cardboard structure. He had created a path through the maze of boxes and tunnels, and at the end of that path, he had placed something shiny. Lisa looked closer. It was a medical scanner. She understood immediately. David was creating a game, a treasure hunt through the cardboard fortress. The medical equipment was the prize. Rin noticed the shiny object and chirped with interest. The creature moved through the cardboard tunnels, navigating the maze that David had built. When Rin reached the scanner, it picked the device up carefully in its mouth. David made encouraging sounds and pointed to another location. Rin carried the scanner through a different path and placed it where David indicated. "Good," David said softly. "Now find the next one." He had placed another piece of medical equipment deeper in the structure. This time it was a bandage roll. Rin moved through the tunnels with growing confidence, understanding the game now. Lisa watched in amazement as David gradually moved the medical supplies closer to himself. Each time Rin retrieved an item, David would examine it, then place the next item a little closer to the injured area on Rin's side. After 20 minutes of this careful game, David had positioned himself close enough to gently touch Rin's injury. The creature flinched but did not pull away. David moved slowly, letting Rin see every motion. He applied antiseptic spray to the wound while Rin focused on retrieving another piece of equipment from the cardboard maze. Lisa stepped forward carefully and knelt 3 meters away. "May I help?" David nodded. "Move slowly. Talk softly. Rin responds better to gentle sounds than loud ones." Lisa approached as if walking on ice. She kept her movements smooth and predictable. When she reached the edge of the cardboard structure, she sat down and pulled a bandage from her kit. Rin watched her with those intense yellow eyes. The creature's body tensed, ready to flee or fight. Lisa held up the bandage where Rin could see it, then slowly offered it to David. He took it with a grateful nod and applied it to Rin's wound. The bandage adhered to the scales perfectly. Rin chirped once, a sound that seemed almost like relief. "The injury is not serious," David said. "Probably got scraped during a rough landing. The shuttle in the docking port is damaged. I think Rin got separated from family during an emergency." Anne nodded. "We detected a distress signal from that shuttle 2 hours ago. We have been trying to identify the vessel's origin, but the transponder is damaged. Vraxi hunting packs travel in family groups," Lisa said. "If this juvenile is here, the adults will come looking." As if summoned by those words, every communication device in the cargo bay buzzed simultaneously. Anne lifted hers and listened to the message. Her expression grew serious. "We have 3 Vraxi ships approaching the station. They are demanding we return their missing juvenile. They are armed and angry." David looked at Rin, who had returned to adding pieces to the cardboard fortress, unaware of the approaching danger. The creature had finally relaxed, finally felt safe. Now adult Vraxi warriors were coming, and they expected the worst. "How long do we have?" David asked. 20 minutes, Anne replied. "Maybe less." David stood up slowly. "Then we need to build faster." "Build what?" Anne looked confused. "Something impressive enough to change their minds about humans." David picked up the largest piece of cardboard he could find. "Get me every piece of packaging material on this station. We are going to build something amazing." Anne stared at him for a moment, then broke into a smile. She tapped her communication device. "All hands, this is Chief Rodriguez. Bring every cardboard box, every piece of packaging, every scrap of foldable material to Cargo Bay 7. We have 15 minutes to prevent an interstellar incident." The cargo bay erupted into organized chaos as station personnel rushed to help. Rin looked at David. with what might have been excitement, then dove back into building with renewed energy. They had a fortress to complete. Cardboard flooded into Cargo Bay 7 like a paper avalanche. Station personnel rushed in carrying boxes of every size and shape. Supply containers, packaging materials, shipping crates, all dumped into growing piles around David and Rin. David worked faster than he had ever worked before. His hands flew through folding, cutting, and taping. Rin matched his energy, the young Vraxi moving through the cardboard pieces with growing skill. The creature had learned the basics of construction now and worked almost independently. Anne organized her security team into assembly lines. Peter, you handle cutting. Sarah, you manage tape distribution. Everyone else followed David's instructions. The cargo bay transformed into a creative workshop. Humans who had never touched cardboard art in their lives suddenly found themselves folding and shaping under David's guidance. The structure grew larger with each passing minute. Dr. Lisa Warner worked alongside David, her scientific mind adapting quickly to the unusual construction project. What exactly are we building? A space station, David replied while reinforcing a cardboard tower, a replica of Horizon 7. If we can show the Vraxi that we mean no harm, that we have been teaching Rin instead of hurting the juvenile, maybe we can avoid conflict. Lisa nodded and began constructing a cardboard version of the medical bay. Around them, the structure expanded in all directions. Towers rose toward the ceiling. Corridors connected different sections. Windows were cut into walls. Details were added with markers and paint that someone had retrieved from the art supplies storage. Rin chirped excitedly and dragged a large piece of cardboard toward the central hub of the structure. The juvenile had figured out the overall design and was adding pieces that made structural sense. David felt a surge of pride watching the young Vraxi work. 10 minutes until the Vraxi ships arrive, Anne announced. They are still broadcasting hostile intentions. David barely heard her. He was focused on adding the docking bay section to the cardboard station. It needed to be recognizable, needed to tell a story. He cut out a small cardboard shuttle and placed it in the docking area. Rin saw the shuttle and made an excited sound. The juvenile understood. This was Rin's shuttle, the one that brought the young Vraxi here. Rin carefully adjusted the cardboard shuttle's position, making it more accurate. Other station personnel caught on to what they were building. Someone created cardboard cargo containers to fill the bay. Another person constructed tiny cardboard figures representing the station crew. The details multiplied as more people contributed their ideas. The structure was now massive, taking up a quarter of the cargo bay. It stood taller than David, a cardboard monument to human creativity and alien-human cooperation. It was not perfect. Tape held together sections that should have been more carefully joined. Some towers leaned slightly, but it was real, solid, and undeniably impressive. 5 minutes, Anne said quietly. I need to brief you on the Vraxi. They are warriors, David. They respect strength and dominance. They might not understand what we have done here. Then we make them understand, David replied. He looked at Rin, who was adding finishing touches to one of the cardboard corridors. We show them what their juvenile has learned. The communication systems crackled to life. A deep, growling voice filled the cargo bay, speaking in the Vraxi language. The universal translator converted the words into English. Human station, this is Pack Leader Serac of the Vraxi hunting fleet. You have our juvenile. Return Rin immediately or we will board by force. Anne picked up the communicator. Pack Leader Serac, this is Chief Rodriguez of Research Station Horizon 7. Your juvenile is safe and unharmed. We request permission to demonstrate this through visual communication. There was a long pause. Then the Vraxi voice returned, slightly less aggressive but still threatening. You have 2 minutes. If we detect any deception, we will consider it an act of war. Anne activated the visual communication system. A large screen descended from the cargo bay ceiling, showing the interior of the Vraxi lead ship. 3 adult Vraxi stood on the bridge, their scales darker and more pronounced than Rin's. They were larger, more muscular, clearly built for combat. The lead Vraxi, Serac, stared at the screen with yellow eyes that glowed with intensity. Show us Rin, now. David stepped in front of the camera and gestured for Rin to come forward. The juvenile bounded over, chirping happily, and stood beside David. The transformation in the adult Vraxi was immediate. Their aggressive postures softened slightly. Serac leaned toward the screen, examining Rin carefully. The juvenile appears healthy, Serac said. suspicion still evident in the voice. But why does Rin stand beside you without fear? What have you done? We built something together, David replied simply. He stepped aside, letting the camera capture the full view of the cardboard space station behind him. The adult Vraxi stared in silence. Sarek's eyes widened, and the pack leader made a sound that the translator could not interpret. The other Vraxi on the bridge moved closer to their screen, trying to understand what they were seeing. What is this structure? Sarek asked slowly. It is made from cardboard, a simple material we use for packaging. Rin was frightened when we first met, so I used cardboard to communicate. We have been building together for the past 2 hours. Rin chirped and ran back to the cardboard station, climbing through one of the corridors with ease. The juvenile emerged from another opening, carrying a small piece of cardboard that had been shaped into a Vraxi ship. Rin had made it during the construction process. Sarek watched the juvenile play with something that might have been wonder. Rin created that? Yes, with guidance. Your juvenile is incredibly intelligent, pack leader. Rin learned the principles of construction within minutes. The adult Vraxi exchanged glances. They spoke among themselves in their own language, too quickly for the translator to keep up. Finally, Sarek turned back to the camera. Humans, we do not understand this behavior. Why did you not restrain Rin? Why did you not secure the juvenile and wait for our arrival? David chose his words carefully. Because Rin was afraid. Fear makes all beings act on instinct instead of intelligence. I wanted to communicate, to show Rin that humans mean no harm. Building together seemed like the best way to do that. This cardboard, Sarek said slowly, it has no practical value. It serves no purpose in hunting or fighting. Why waste time creating structures from it? David smiled. Because creation is how humans process the world. We learn through making things, through playing with possibilities. I thought Rin might respond to the same approach. Sarek was quiet for a long moment. Then the pack leader said something that surprised everyone in the cargo bay. Can you teach us? David blinked. Teach you what? This building, this cardboard magic. Our juveniles train only in hunting and fighting. We teach them strength and strategy, but we have never shown them how to create, how to play. Sarek gestured to someone off-screen. We are docking with your station, peacefully. We wish to see this cardboard creation in person. Anne looked at David with surprise and relief. A potential war had just transformed into a cultural exchange, all because of cardboard and a willingness to play. Rin chirped happily and continued adding pieces to the cardboard space station, completely unaware that this juvenile had just changed the course of human-Vraxi relations forever. David picked up another piece of cardboard and got back to work. If adult Vraxi warriors were coming to learn, then they needed to make this fortress even better. They had building to do. The docking clamps secured with a metallic thud that echoed through the cargo bay. David felt his heart pounding as he watched the airlock door. Beside him, Rin chirped excitedly, completely unafraid of what was coming. The young Vraxi had no idea that adult members of one of the galaxy's most feared warrior species were about to walk through that door. The airlock cycled. Air pressure equalized. The door slid open. Pack leader Sarek entered first, moving with the fluid grace of a natural predator. The adult Vraxi stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb the light. Behind Sarek came 2 other adult Vraxi, equally imposing, their yellow eyes scanning the cargo bay for threats. Anne and her security team stood ready, but had agreed to keep weapons holstered. Dr. Lisa Warner waited nearby with medical supplies, though David suspected the adult Vraxi would refuse any treatment. Rin let out a series of excited chirps and bounded toward the newcomers. The juvenile moved so fast that several security officers tensed, hands moving toward their weapons, but Rin simply crashed into Sarek's legs, rubbing against the pack leader like an affectionate cat. Sarek bent down and examined Rin carefully. Large claws capable of tearing through metal gently touched the bandage on the juvenile's side. The pack leader's eyes narrowed, and for a moment David thought he had made a terrible mistake. Then Sarek looked up at David and spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. You treated Rin's injury? Yes. It was not serious, but it needed attention. David kept his voice steady despite his nervousness. Sarek stood to full height and approached David slowly. The other 2 adult Vraxi spread out, examining the cardboard space station from different angles. One of them reached out and touched a cardboard tower. The structure wobbled slightly but held. The Vraxi warrior made a surprised sound. This is stable. The materials are weak, but the construction method provides strength. Serac stopped 2 meters from David, studying the human with intense focus. You are pack leader of this station? No, I am just an engineer. I fix broken things. Yet you made a decision that could have resulted in war between our species. You chose to communicate rather than contain. Serac glanced at the cardboard station. Explain this cardboard magic to me. David took a breath and tried to put his thoughts into words. Cardboard is just paper pressed together. It is cheap, disposable, usually thrown away. But when you fold it, cut it, shape it, you can create almost anything. It is a material that rewards creativity. Creativity, Serac repeated slowly as if tasting the word. This is a human concept? I think it is a universal concept. Your people must create things too. Ships, weapons, tools. We create things that serve purposes. This serves no purpose. Serac gestured at the cardboard station. Yet Rin seems changed by it. One of the other Vraxi warriors approached. This one was slightly smaller than Serac, but moved with equal confidence. I am Kira, second of the pack. I watched the video of your building process. Rin participated willingly without fear. This is unusual. Our juveniles fear most new experiences. David nodded. Fear is a natural response to the unknown. I used cardboard to create something familiar through shared experience. When you build together, fear turns into trust. Kira circled the cardboard station, examining every detail. Rin helped create this section here. I recognize the claw marks, the specific patterns. Our juvenile learned structural principles through play. Yes, David said, and Rin learned fast. Your people are clearly intelligent. I just gave Rin a safe way to express that intelligence. Serac made a low growling sound that the translator struggled to interpret. Finally, the words came through. We have been training our juveniles wrong. The statement hung in the air like a challenge. Anne stepped forward carefully. Pack leader, perhaps we should discuss this in a more comfortable setting. We can provide refreshments and proper seating. No. Serac's response was immediate. We discussed this here with the cardboard magic present. I need to understand what happened between my juvenile and this human. David picked up a fresh piece of cardboard from the dwindling supply pile. Then let me show you. Would you like to build something? The 3 adult Vraxi exchanged glances. Kira spoke first. We are warriors. We do not play. Building is not just play, David replied. It is problem solving. It is strategy. Every structure needs balance, needs support, needs planning. These are the same skills you use in combat, just applied differently. Serac considered this for a long moment. Then the pack leader sat down on the cargo bay floor, a position that would have been vulnerable for any warrior. Show me. David sat across from Serac and placed the cardboard between them. He began folding, explaining each step as he went. First, you create a base. Without a strong foundation, everything collapses. Then you build upward, always keeping the weight balanced. He created a simple tower and handed it to Serac. The pack leader's large claws made the work difficult but not impossible. Serac copied David's movements, creating another tower that leaned slightly. It is flawed, Serac said, frustration evident. Try supporting this side with another piece, David suggested. He handed over more cardboard. Serac added the support and the tower straightened. The pack leader made a sound of satisfaction. The weakness was corrected through additional structure. Exactly. Now you understand the basics. Rin bounced over and dropped a piece of cardboard in front of Serac. The juvenile chirped encouragingly, clearly wanting the pack leader to continue building. Serac looked at the young Vraxi, then at the cardboard, then back at David. Rin is teaching me, Serac said with what might have been amusement. The juvenile has become the teacher, David smiled. That is how learning works. Knowledge flows in all directions. Kira and the 3rd Vraxi warrior, who had not yet spoken, sat down and joined the building process. Within minutes, all 3 adult Vraxi were working with cardboard, their movements becoming more confident as they learned. Station personnel watched in amazement. Anne quietly recorded everything, knowing that this moment would be studied for years to come. Dr. Lisa Warner made notes on her datapad, documenting the social behavior of Vraxi warriors engaging in creative play. An hour passed. The adult Vraxi had created an extension to the cardboard space station, their section incorporating design elements that were distinctly alien. Where human construction was based on right angles and symmetry, The Vraxi edition featured flowing curves and organic shapes that mimicked their own ship designs. The combination was beautiful. Serac stood and examined the completed work. This cardboard magic has given me understanding. Our juveniles train only for war. We teach them to hunt, to fight, to survive. But we never teach them to create, to imagine, to play. Perhaps this is why our scientific advancement has been slow compared to other species. Creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin, David said. Both require understanding of structure, balance, and consequence. Maybe your juveniles need both. Kira approached David and lowered her head slightly, a gesture of respect. Human David, you have shown us a path we did not know existed. We wish to learn more. Will you teach other Vraxi juveniles this cardboard magic? David looked at Anne, who nodded encouragingly. He turned back to Kira. I would be honored. Serac placed a large claw on David's shoulder, a gesture that made several security officers tense. But the pack leader's touch was gentle. You have given our pack something precious. You returned Rin safely and gave us knowledge we lacked. This creates a debt. No debt, David replied. Just friendship. Serac made that growling sound again, and this time the translator caught it. Laughter. The pack leader was laughing. Friendship between Vraxi and humans. Our ancestors would not believe this possible. Yet here we stand, united by cardboard and creation. Rin chirped and added one final piece to the massive cardboard structure. The juvenile stepped back, and everyone in the cargo bay looked at what they had built together. It was enormous, imperfect, and impossible. It was proof that any species could work together if they found common ground, even if that common ground was made of cardboard. 6 months had passed since the cardboard fortress incident. David stood in the observation deck of the Vraxi homeworld orbital station, watching the planet below. The world was beautiful in a harsh way, with red deserts and jagged mountain ranges that spoke of a warrior culture forged in difficult conditions. His journey here had been unexpected. After word spread about the peaceful first contact, both human and Vraxi governments had pushed for an official cultural exchange program. David, who had only wanted to fix a cooling system that day in the cargo bay, had become an ambassador of sorts. Behind him, the door opened with a soft hiss. Kira entered, moving with the easy confidence of someone in their own territory. Teacher David, the juveniles are ready. They have been excited all morning. David smiled at the title. The Vraxi had insisted on calling him teacher, despite his protests. I hope I do not disappoint them. You brought cardboard magic to our people. You could not disappoint them if you tried. Kira gestured toward the corridor. Come, let me show you what we have prepared. They walked through the station corridors together. The Vraxi orbital facility was impressive, built with the same flowing organic designs that David had seen in their cardboard construction. Other Vraxi passed them, offering respectful nods to both David and Kira. The educational chamber was massive. David had expected a small classroom, but this was more like an auditorium. Rows of young Vraxi sat waiting, their eyes bright with anticipation. David counted at least 50 juveniles, all roughly Rin's age, and there in the front row sat Rin. The young Vraxi chirped excitedly upon seeing David and bounded over. Rin was bigger now, scales darker and more pronounced. Growing fast, David knelt down and let Rin nuzzle against him. Hello, old friend. Ready to build something amazing? Rin chirped an affirmative and returned to the front row. The other juveniles watched this interaction with interest. Their teacher, the legendary human who had created cardboard magic, was friends with one of their own. Serac entered from a side door, followed by several other adult Vraxi. The pack leader had taken a personal interest in this educational program and attended every session when possible. Teacher David, Serac said formally, welcome to the Hunting Pack Educational Facility. As you can see, our juveniles are eager to learn. David set down the large container he had been carrying. Inside were sheets of cardboard, tape, scissors, and various other materials. Thank you, pack leader. I am honored to be here. He turned to face the juvenile Vraxi and felt a moment of nervousness. This was so different from working with Rin in that cargo bay. This was official, structured, with expectations attached. Then he remembered why he was here. These were just kids, alien or not, who wanted to learn and play. Hello, everyone, David began. My name is David Reed. I am not a warrior. I am not a leader. I am just an engineer who likes to build things. Today, I am going to teach you how simple materials can become anything you imagine. He pulled out a sheet of cardboard and held it up. This is cardboard. It is weak alone, watch. He bent the cardboard easily. But when we shape it, when we give it structure, it becomes strong. David quickly folded the cardboard into a triangular support beam and showed how it could now hold weight. The juveniles leaned forward, interested. The first rule of building is this: everything needs balance. The second rule is, there are no mistakes, only learning opportunities. The third rule is, working together makes everything better. He demonstrated basic folding techniques, creating simple shapes that the juveniles could replicate. Then he distributed cardboard and materials to each row. Now you try. Create whatever you imagine. There is no wrong answer. The chamber erupted into activity. Young Vraxi claws tore through cardboard with enthusiasm. Some juveniles worked carefully, others experimented wildly. David moved through the rows, offering guidance and encouragement. One juvenile, smaller than the others, struggled to make the cardboard fold correctly. David knelt beside the young Vraxi. What are you trying to create? The juvenile spoke in a quiet voice. A ship like the hunting vessels. But my claws keep ripping the material. Your claws are strong. That is good. But strong tools need gentle control. David showed the juvenile how to use the flat of the claw instead of the point, how to score lines before folding. Try again. The juvenile followed the advice and successfully created a basic ship shape. The young Vraxi's eyes brightened with achievement. David continued through the rows, helping where needed, praising successes, encouraging through failures. He noticed something interesting. The juveniles naturally began helping each other, sharing techniques and ideas. They were learning collaboration without being told to do so. After an hour, the chamber was filled with cardboard creations. Ships, buildings, creatures both real and imagined. The juveniles had gone beyond simple copying and started innovating, combining human building techniques with their own instinctive understanding of form and function. Rin had created something particularly impressive. A detailed model of Research Station Horizon 7, combined with elements of Vraxi ship design. It was a hybrid, representing the friendship between two species. Serac approached David, and for the first time since they had met, the pack leader seemed emotional. Look at them. They are not just learning to build. They are learning to imagine possibilities beyond what we taught them. That is what education should do, David replied. Give them tools to create their own future. One of the adult Vraxi observers approached. This was Torin, the chief science advisor to the Vraxi Council. Teacher David, since you began these sessions 3 months ago, we have seen measurable changes in juvenile development. Problem-solving abilities have improved by 30%. Creative thinking has increased even more. Most significantly, cooperation between juveniles has tripled. David watched the young Vraxi working together on a massive collaborative project, combining all their individual creations into one enormous structure. They were always capable of this. They just needed permission to try. Torin made a thoughtful sound. We have contacted other Vraxi colonies and packs. They all wish to implement this cardboard magic program. You have started a revolution in how we raise our young. It is not a revolution, David said. It is just play. Every species needs play. As the session ended, the juveniles were reluctant to leave their creations. Serac announced that all structures would be preserved and displayed in the facility's main corridor, honoring their work. The young Vraxi chirped with pride. Rin approached David one final time before leaving. The juvenile had grown so much in 6 months but still maintained that playful energy. Rin pressed a small object into David's hand. It was a carefully folded piece of metal, shaped using the same folding principles as cardboard origami. Rin had taken the lessons and applied them to new materials. David felt tears forming in his eyes. Thank you, Rin, this is beautiful. Rin chirped and bounded away to join the other juveniles. David watched them go. These young predators who had learned that creation could be as powerful as destruction. Kira stood beside him as the chamber emptied. You changed our species, Teacher David. Future generations of Vraxi will grow up different because of what you taught us. I just showed them how to fold cardboard, David said softly. No, you showed them how to imagine, how to create, how to work together. These are skills that will shape our civilization for centuries. Kira placed a claw on his shoulder. The Vraxi people are forever in your debt. David looked at the metal origami in his hand, then at the massive cardboard structures filling the chamber. He thought about that terrifying moment in the cargo bay when he had first seen Rin, scared and injured. He had made a choice that day to communicate instead of contain, to build instead of defend. That choice had changed everything. He turned to Kira and smiled. I am just an engineer who likes to fix broken things. But maybe I fixed something bigger than a cooling system this time. You fixed the gap between our species, Kira replied. You built a bridge out of cardboard and imagination. David looked out the observation window at the Vraxi homeworld below. Down there, in schools and homes across the planet, young Vraxi were learning to fold cardboard, to create, to play. Human Vraxi cooperation had expanded beyond diplomacy and trade. It had reached the level of shared culture, shared growth, all because of cardboard magic. Sarek approached them holding a communication device. Teacher David, we have received a message from the Federation Council. 3 other species have heard about the Vraxi educational program. They want to learn this cardboard magic for their young as well. David laughed. I am going to need a lot more cardboard. The galaxy will provide, Sarek said with that growling laugh. You have shown us that the simplest materials can create the greatest changes. Now other species want to learn this lesson. David thought about his simple life as a maintenance engineer, fixing cooling systems and replacing worn parts. That life seemed so far away now. He had become something unexpected. A teacher, an ambassador, a bridge between worlds. And it had all started with a terrified predator cub in a flattened cardboard box. He looked at Kira and Sarek, these warriors who had learned to create alongside their capacity for destruction. He thought about Rin and the other juveniles, growing up with skills their ancestors never had. The future was being built right now, in schools and chambers across the galaxy, by young beings folding cardboard and imagining possibilities. David smiled and picked up his container of materials. Come on then. We have more building to do. The universe is not going to teach itself. As they walked through the corridors of the station, David could hear the sounds of juvenile Vraxi and other chambers, chirping with excitement over their creations. The sound of paper tearing, tape dispensing, and collaborative building echoed through the halls. It was the sound of change. It was the sound of hope. It was the sound of cardboard magic spreading across the stars. And somewhere in a cargo bay on Research Station Horizon 7, a simple cardboard fortress still stood, preserved as a monument to the day when humans and Vraxi learned that any barrier could be overcome with creativity, patience, and a willingness to play. The predator cub had been terrified. The human had introduced cardboard magic, and the galaxy would never be the same.